to rush every once in a while, doing some of those little things and playing, just really tough to play against. Your three stars of the game were Larkin, Sider, and Kane. And it sure as hell makes a lot of sense. So that's the good news. The problem is Ottawa won again last night. And this is the situation you put yourself in, unfortunately. You put yourself in a situation where you need help. The Islanders won, so they remain tied with you. And the Senators blew out the Panthers 5-1. So the Senators still are up 3 points on you. And here's what you have. You have Detroit sitting there at 91 points. What was it? 5 more points than they had a year ago. That doesn't matter. What matters is that you only have 3 games left, and your margin of error is none, quite honestly, because you don't have to tie Ottawa. You have to pass Ottawa. So Detroit is going to square off against New Jersey on Saturday for Fan Appreciation Night. And then you're on the road at Tampa, tough situation, and at Florida, which is a positive situation, depending on how you're going to have to look at it, considering it's the last game of the year and you may be out of it by then. So it doesn't really matter. So you have a possible 6 points left, all right, to get to 97. It's a lot for a second wild card, but that's the way it goes. Ottawa's at 93 points right now. And because of that, you need some help. You need someone. I'm sorry, Ottawa's at 94 points. He's at 93. You need somebody to come up and be your wingman. No pun intended, right? Ottawa plays at the Islanders. That's good news because they are fighting. That's a massive game for the Islanders, all right? Then it's at New Jersey and home to Toronto. That's the tough part. New Jersey is a team that has already been eliminated. So it's good for Detroit in their next game, but not so good because Ottawa still hasn't won. And of course, Toronto's been eliminated. They have the fewest points in the entire Atlantic Division. So it's going to be really hard. That's why that last game that you and I have talked about, that last game against Ottawa, where Detroit fell in the 3-2 final, was so crushing. And the loss to Columbus 4-3 was crushing. Think about this. Detroit has lost 5 of their last 6 or 5 of their last 7 after the win last night. But prior to last night, they had lost 3 in a row. All right. And they lost by a goal to Columbus. They lost by a goal to Minnesota. The New York game, of course, at the Rangers was just an absolute stinker, worse than a stinker. Could use some different words. Remember they got blown out 4-1, and we couldn't figure that one out. How do you come out at Madison Square Garden against a team that isn't very good, isn't going anywhere? They haven't. They're not tanking, but they're not good. You're a better team than they are. You need these points, and you fall short. I'm just trying to prepare you. I'm not trying to be the bearer of a bunch of bad news, especially after an impressive win last night, because that's a good win over Philadelphia. Some would argue from the national stage, and no doubt in Philly, they're probably going, what the hell? How does this happen? How do you lose to Detroit? Well, Philly's only got 1 more point than you. The difference is they play in the Metro. Detroit's not catching anybody in the Atlantic. The Atlantic is Buffalo, 106 points. Montreal, who won last night, Nick Suzuki with over 50 goals, 104 points, and then Tampa, 102. Tampa's really good. You know that. So there's your situation. If you played in the Metro, it might be a little different because Pittsburgh and Philadelphia are more like Phillies where you could catch them. But it's just not happening in the Atlantic. It's too tough of a division. Speaking of hockey, we'll stick here. Michigan blows a late lead and loses to Denver 4-3 in double overtime in the national semifinals. The Pioneers scored with 2.5 minutes left in regulation to force overtime and then win it in the double extra session by Derek Anderson, their captain. I mean, you talk about being snake bit. as good as it must feel to make 42 NCAA tournaments, an NCAA record, to make 29 Frozen Fours, an NCAA record. Wait till you hear the numbers associated with Michigan hockey when they get to the national semifinals. We'll give you that when we come back. It's a really frustrating night if you're a Michigan hockey fan. All that and more coming up here on X's and Bros on a Friday. Glad you're with us throughout the state of Michigan.
You've worked hard for decades saving in pre-tax retirement plans like 401ks and IRAs, saving on taxes now. But as your retirement now approaches, you're going to get taxed at rates you have no control over. Hi, I'm Mitch Lyons, founder of Mitch Lyons Wealth. Your 401k balance isn't worth what your statement says. You could lose thousands of dollars to taxes, and those distributions can impact other areas of your retirement like Social Security and Medicare. Could a Roth IRA conversion be of help to you? You've probably heard of Roth conversions, but it can be confusing. Should you convert all at once or over time? Where should you pay the taxes from? How do you know for sure? Get our free personalized Roth Blueprint analysis today to find out exactly what makes sense for you. Your Roth Blueprint could potentially increase your lifetime wealth by thousands of dollars. So get your free Roth Blueprint today. Text Blueprint to 844-867-8335. That's Blueprint to 844-867-8335. Or go to MitchLyonsWealth.com, your best game plan to protect, grow, and win retirement.
Huge here for Josh Garvey and his team at Doeren Mayhew. Now, Josh oversees the West Michigan operations. Doeren Mayhew's worldwide headquarters are in Troy, Michigan, on the east side of the state. They are one of the top accounting, CPA, and business firms in the world. They continue to grow. They can help your business with any accounting, CPA, or business need you have. And also Doeren Mayhew and Josh and the West Michigan operation, they present Talking Hoops with John Beilein. We do it every Tuesday on the Huge Show through the NBA Finals. So how far will the Pistons go in the playoffs? You can hear Coach Beilein, Josh Garvey, and myself every Tuesday on the Huge Show as we talk hoops, presented by one of the world's top accounting, CPA, and business firms, Doeren Mayhew. Josh Garvey oversees the West Michigan operation. Their worldwide headquarters for Doeren Mayhew are in Troy, Michigan. Huge here for Van Andel Institute Purple Community. Now, they're a grassroots fundraising network powered by the volunteers who support VAI's mission to improve health now and in the future. Learn more at purplecommunity.org.
obviously it's nice that the 2 points for the team obviously mean a little more. Great effort by everyone. Obviously that makes it a little bit easier on yourself, and everyone stepped up big today, especially the penalty killers. That was huge. Kind of switched the whole game around, and that's only one of four. And I think that should be the message into our locker room right now. We need 6 more points, and then we'll see where we land.
That's Mo Sider after the Red Wings 6-3 win last night. He's had himself a very nice season. There's no doubt. Alex DeBrincat with the 40 goals. How many times have we heard people say, we need a 40-goal scorer? We've heard it a lot. And the reason we've heard it a lot is because we don't see it a lot. As I mentioned, the first Red Wing to score 40 goals since Marian Hossa. 40 goals is not easy. It's like 50 home runs. It really is. It's not easy at all. There are only 10 players in the National Hockey League who have 40 goals this year. Nathan McKinnon's got 52. Cole Caulfield scored his 50th last night. Connor McDavid has 47. Kirill Kaprizov has 45, including that hat trick against Detroit in that 5-4 win last week. That was just absolutely a backbreaker. Wyatt Johnston for Dallas has 4. Nikita Kucherov, arguably the best player, has 43. Macklin Celebrini, who's going to be the face of the NHL for a long time once Connor McDavid hangs it up, he's got 42. Jason Robertson from Dallas played his Little League hockey in Detroit. He's got 42. And Matt Boldy, who scored and assisted a couple of times in the Minnesota win against Detroit, has 42 as well. Then there's Alex DeBrincat. Now, there might be more. Steven Stamkos might score his 40th sometime soon. But as of right now, there's only 10 players who has scored 40 goals or more this year. It tells you just how challenging that milestone truly is. A year ago, Andy, if I asked you, a year ago, how many guys scored 40 goals last season? What would you say?
Gosh,
the answer is 8.
8. Okay.
Only 8. The year before that, in a couple of years ago, well, there were 17. It's not that many. Think about how many guys play hockey. Think about how many forwards are scoring.
No, so when you think about it, I feel like there's a point in the season where I felt like DeBrincat was like the only Red Wings scoring for a while there.
Yeah, that's what it felt like. Now, in fairness, I mean, Dylan Larkin, hell of a job by Dylan Larkin.
Yeah, great effort last night after, I mean, you could see in that, post-game stuff a couple days ago, he looked pretty beat up, and to come out and play with that kind of effort, I think that says a lot about the person he is, but
skated differently last night. So Larkin in 68 games with 34 goals. So if you kind of prorated that a little bit, if he hadn't missed so much time, he might be a 40-goal scorer this year. Might be. Or at least have a better shot at it, because he's probably not getting there in the next 3 games.
Yeah,
it's going to be really hard to score 6 goals in the next 3 games. Shouldn't put it past him. But anyway, so a big win for the Red Wings. Good sound there from Mo Sider. We left with Ken Anderson scoring the game winner for Denver, or as the broadcast kept saying, the Pios, which drives me flipping nuts. I mean, you want to use nicknames for players. I'm not for it, but go ahead. Now you're going to start using the nickname Pios instead of Pioneers. Oy. Anyway, their captain, Ken Anderson, who doesn't score very much, allowed Denver to beat Michigan in double overtime. This is the frustration with Michigan fans. Michigan hockey fans. They get there, they're excited. I get it. And they played a strong game. Just because you win the game doesn't mean you're always the better team. If you look at the numbers from Michigan, and this is what Brandon Naurato said after the game. Brandon Naurato is the head coach for the University of Michigan hockey program. Michigan outshot them 52-26. They were a perfect 5 for 5 on the kill. They were really sharp on the power play. And yet they're on the downside. Michigan has now lost 5 consecutive semifinal games, dating back to 2011 when they finished as a runner-up in the national championship game to Minnesota Duluth. 0 for their last 5 in the semifinals. And in 10 Frozen Four appearances since last winning in 1998, Michigan has suffered 5 overtime losses and are 1-9 in the semifinals. What is it? Like, it's an easy thing to boast, and I would too. An NCAA record 29 Frozen Fours. But when you're coming up short, as often as they have, are you gripping the stick too tight? Is it coaching? Everybody said this is one of the best goaltenders they've had in the last 20 years. You talk about frustrating. You talk about letdown. That's the number 1 overall seed. I know, basketball, this is what we oftentimes do since the 2 seasons coincide with one another. So you compare it to basketball. Duke was the number 1 overall seed in basketball, and they lost. They didn't reach the Final Four. They lost in the Elite Eight. But this is different. There's only 16 teams each year invited to the NCAA men's hockey tournament. Only 16. And Michigan's made it 42 times. 29 times. They've been able to win those games to get them to the Frozen Four. 2 games and boom, you're in. And everybody said Vegas was not a good, how many times did, I shouldn't say everybody. A lot of people said Vegas wasn't the right venue. That place was rocking. Over 17,000 to watch the Frozen Four.
Yeah, I think you can find people interested in Vegas no matter what to watch a game like that.
Hell yeah. I mean, you've got the Golden Knights there, so they wanted to see it. Look, Andy, you and I were texting a little bit during last night. At some point, I had, I made it through the first overtime. I can't, come on, when you were getting up as early as you and I are, I can't get through that second one.
Yeah, what a week for that right now, huh? You got Monday too with Michigan, the national championship starting at 8:50, and then last night that game starts at what? I think it was relatively 8:30.
Yeah, it was a little bit later than that because of the Wisconsin game, in which Wisconsin won, by the way.
Yeah, you want to talk about upsets?
Wisconsin beat North Dakota, yeah. So Wisconsin wins 2-1. So Michigan State fans are probably frustrated at that. So at least the Big Ten is represented in the finals, but Denver is going to be a heavy favorite, and rightfully so. Those were the 2 best teams in college hockey last night, although I'll be rooting for Wisconsin because you root for the Big Ten, at least I do. It's tough to stay up for that stuff when it's that late, when it's starting that late.
No, yeah.
I understand why they had that as the late game because that's the marquee matchup. Like I said, the 2 best teams in college hockey, although Wisconsin may prove us wrong. We'll soon find out. All right. So Wisconsin, a 2-1 winner. Good for them. They scored 2 goals 27 seconds apart in the first and was able to hold on. Okay. So they've won. They're just the opposite of Michigan. Wisconsin has won 8 consecutive semifinal matchups. Michigan has lost 5 in a row.
Yeah, you have to wonder at a certain point if that is like you kind of brought, they gripping the stick too tight. Like maybe even though they're players right now, that still could come up in their mind, with all that past history. That's a lot of history there.
How could it not? How could it not? How could you not at least be thinking about that? I mean, I would be. I think it's fair. You're human. I know you can sit there and say, this team doesn't affect us, but there is something about carrying on something for your institution. It's a lot different when we're trying to talk to Jared Goff about teams from the early 2000s with the Lions. Hey, you haven't beaten Green Bay in this one. And he's saying, I wasn't on that team. I get it. I think it's a little different when it comes to colleges. You're trying to buck a trend, a negative trend for your institution, your program, and for the guys who played before you. There is some type of connection there, right? There is some symmetry between you and those who have played in the same uniform in the past that you don't feel at the professional level. We'll talk a little baseball with the Tigers losing yesterday. We'll get to that coming up, and a big concern. First day at the Masters, and Dusty May keeps winning. All that coming up here on X's and Bros, brought to you by Mitch Lyons Wealth.
Huge here for the Michigan High School Athletic Association. You can stay up to date on the latest from Lansing 24/7 at MHSAA.com, at MHSAA on Twitter, and MHSAA on Facebook. The latest news, press releases, and stories connected to every high school in the state of Michigan, available for you 24/7 from the Michigan High School Athletic Association. Log on to MHSAA.com, at MHSAA on Twitter, and MHSAA on Facebook. And if you're looking for archive, boys and girls, high school sports, MHSAA.TV. That's MHSAA.TV. 24/7, everything you need to know about high school sports in Michigan. Log on to MHSAA.com.
Hear that? That's the sound of saving a good deal more when you shop with M-Perks at Meijer. Some delicious Cosmic Crisp apples, money saved. Meijer Essential Paper Towels, that's money saved. Savings, savings, savings. Because every dollar spent is also points earned in M-Perks, which you can use to save on your next grocery trip or up to $1 off per gallon on your next tank of gas. At Meijer, we work hard to help you save a good deal more for a whole lot less. That's bringing more good to life. Exclusions apply. See mperks.com for details.
The Freddie the Pizza Man Foundation is dedicated to providing support to families and Michigan schools touched by autism. We invite you to join us in supporting these families and schools by making a donation at freddythepizzaman.com. With your donation, you can help provide essential resources that can make a real impact. Visit freddythepizzaman.com to make a donation and to learn more about the foundation's mission. That's FREDI thepizzaman.com. Together, we can make a difference.
35 after the hour. Welcome back, X's and Bros, Monday through Friday, 6 until 9. Good stuff. Andy McDonald is with us a little bit later on. We will visit at 8:35. We'll talk a little Tigers and Marlins baseball because they've got a series this weekend with Kyle Seeloff. Kyle Seeloff is the play-by-play voice for the Miami Marlins. Speaking of the Tigers, they lose yesterday, 3-1. Jack Flaherty wasn't bad. Okay. 5 2/3, 5 hits and a run. I mean, for who he is, like if that's Tarek Schoolby, you're like, Framber Valdez, Jack Flaherty, okay, yeah. A run, 5 hits, 5 2/3. Seems like he had some good movement on his pitches. You would take outings like that from Jack Flaherty. It's look, the wins and loss thing. And he got a no decision yesterday. The wins and loss thing, sometimes you can't control that. He struck out 6. I didn't like the 3 walks, but he struck out 6. Sure wasn't his fault. Let's put it that way. Why they lost, why they got swept. They went 0 for 11 with runners in scoring position. First series win, first series sweep of the year for a Minnesota team that is, let's be honest, they're just not viewed as very good. Perhaps, grant us this, Andy, perhaps we think a little bit too highly. We value the Tigers too highly.
I mean, yeah, I think that
I thought about that yesterday while watching the game a little bit. I'm like, okay, wait a minute. Would you take Byron Buxton on your team? Yes or no?
Absolutely. Yeah. With everything, all the speed you see in this series. Yeah, for sure.
Right. Would you take Matt Wallner? I would.
Yeah.
Matt Wallner's, he's a pretty good player. Now he's not off to a great start, but he's a pretty good player. Victor Caratini just killed Detroit in this series.
Mm-hmm.
He'd be a backup. I wouldn't want him, over Dylan Dinklage.
Yeah, I think it just goes back to the point you were kind of bringing up the other day about if you went in you have to be honest, if you went into their, dugout and looked at their lineup card, would you say I gotta have, one of these guys? And no. I don't, being the Tigers I'm talking about. And you can look across the field at a team that a lot of people put below them in the division. I mean, everybody put below the Tigers in the division this year. And you've already listed 2, maybe 3 that you would take over them.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd take Matt Wallner over Kerry Carpenter. I'm not going to go that far, but I think he's a good player. I think he's a great player. I think he's a good player. What about Josh Bell?
I mean,
Josh Bell's
with the power he was, he hit at 400 feet yesterday in the cold. Yeah, I mean, that's good stuff.
But I don't want you to just look at one game. I want you to look at the player himself. He's a 260 lifetime hitter, okay, who's won a Silver Slugger bat. He's been an all-star. He's got close to 200 homers. He's going to give you, his best year was, I think 37. He's having a good year so far. Unfortunately, our first baseman's batting like $186. So without getting too hyperbolic here, perhaps, just perhaps, I'm undervaluing some of their players, not all of them, but some of their players, because I'll be honest with you, I don't know much about Tristan Gray. He's a 30-year-old journeyman. Just because he's hitting 300 and your shortstop is not, and that shortstop being Javier Baez, although he's actually having a good year so far, batting 323 after going 2 for 4 yesterday.
And who knows? He might be the center fielder after what happened to Meadows yesterday. That was pretty scary.
Well, yeah. So my initial thought, and that's the concern. So it's a good point by you. And Detroit opens up a weekend series against Miami today, as I mentioned. We'll talk with their play-by-play voice. It'll be Kaiser Montero against Chris Paddock. Marlins were 8-1 winners yesterday over the Reds. They lead the NL East, believe it or not. If you look at Detroit's last 82 games, they've lost 50. They're 32-50 in their last 82 games. I don't know if that's a hangover. I don't know if that's a carryover from last year. I just know their struggles hitting the baseball a year ago at the end of the season is something you and I talked about for a long time. And it's continuing this year. Sure, we can highlight Cole Keith batting 350, and we can highlight Kevin McGonigal batting 286. But here's part of the problem. Gleyber Torres, 230. Riley Green, 200. Kerry Carpenter, under 185. Spencer Torkelson, under 185. Zach McKinstry, 200. These are the numbers in your lineup. Jake Rogers batting 83. Thank you very much. Those are serious issues. Those are the things that, not that you need to panic, but when you have Riley Green and Kerry Carpenter, your two most powerful left-handed bats this season, going combined $195 with 29 punch-outs and only 2 homers, that's an issue.
And it's been an issue, kind of like you said, going back to last year. And I think the other concerning part about all this is the money that you spend on pitching to make it, I think Fangraphs of the Tigers rotation coming into the season is the second best in baseball. I think right now they have 5 quality starts and the other 7 are at average or below average, and most of those are below average. Their starting pitching hasn't been great either, on top of the hitting kind of being the same as it's been since last year.
Yeah, but let's be honest. Are you more concerned about their pitching or their hitting?
100% the hitting, just because early in the season with the pitching, it's going to figure itself out. It feels like if it doesn't, I don't even know how much you could blame management for that with some of the arms they brought here. You would definitely think they would figure it out on their own. But yeah, this is the same thing we've been talking about for at least, I don't know, close to 2 years. It feels like with the hitting, it's just they haven't brought in somebody that feels like they've been a good major league bat for a while to bring any consistency to this lineup, I guess.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's what, here's the reason. I don't want to speak for you, but I think in general, Tigers fans are worried about this because in the offseason, what did you want to see? We all said this.
Right-handed power bat? I mean, that's what I would have thought.
We said, this show said, you're going to need a couple of starters because you knew Job was out, and at least for the first half of the season, and you knew that Reese Olson was out, and you knew you didn't have a lights out in Jack Flaherty, and you figured Casey Mize was a middle of the road starter, with all due respect. Okay, because I like him a lot, but he's not a top end starter for you. That's what I hope that's what they identified. So you need some punch in your lineup, do you not? Absolutely. They went out and got Framber Valdez, 2 thumbs up. You know what? You signed Justin Verlander, which I'm fine with, as long as they did what they did, and where they were very creative in the contract. So I love that, and he's at the back end of your rotation. If you had Jackson Jobe, I might think differently. If you had Troy Melton, I would feel differently. But it's really the hitting. It's the offense that concerns you most, and I totally get that. Think of it this way, too. Now you're in a tough situation. It's way too early. We're not going to sit there and judge this team on 13 games. That's crazy. But I did see a statistic. Over the last 20 years, teams starting 4-9 or worse are 5 of 83 to make the playoffs. 83 teams over the last 20 years has started 4-9 or worse. And only 5 have made the playoffs.
I mean, until last year, it felt like every season before that with the Tigers, we're talking about bad Aprils over and over and over again. Sometimes that hole's hard to climb out of if you don't figure it out quick.
Yeah, last year obviously was different.
That was their one blip in the radar where they did better. Obviously, they were one of the best teams to start. Yeah, MLB baseball in general. But yeah, it's one of those things where it doesn't matter if it's cold and it's hard. You got to find a way to at least go 500. It feels like during this month, or it could be tough to get out of it as the season moves along.
Here's the hard part, Andy, about baseball. You can only do so much. You have 26 guys on your roster. 13 of those are arms. You play 8 guys. Fielding positions. I know there's 9 on the field, but the 9th is the pitcher. You've got 8 guys. So that leaves you 5 guys on your bench. What kind of moves can you truly make? Think about it for a minute.
I mean, it gets to a point where if it's not working, especially if we're going with the hitting side of it here. I mean,
well, look at it this way. If you're going to start Jake Rogers and he struggles,
sure,
you go to Dylan Dingler, right? Because you're only carrying 2 catchers.
Yeah.
Rarely does a team carry a 3rd catcher unless that catcher is a first baseman as well. So you rarely do that. All right. So there's one position, the backup catcher, right? You've got a couple utility guys. So you start McKinstry yesterday. You give McGonigal the day off, although he did come in and pinch hit, right? And play shortstop, and then Javier Baez moved from shortstop to center. So you got a couple of guys who can play a few other positions. Matt Vierling, Zach McKinstry. So there's 3. Then you've got 2 guys. Usually they're specialists. A Jahmai Jones is an example of that. Okay? This is what you're dealing with. You have very little wiggle room. When people say you've got to change some things up, excuse me, the only thing you can really change is your lineup, as in where guys are hitting. Cole Keith's been your best hitter. He's been slightly better than Kevin McGonigal. I like McGonigal a lot. We got to be careful not to get too far ahead. But Cole Keith has been your most consistent. He's batting .350. All right. He went 1 for 3 yesterday. So he's got an on-base streak of 9 consecutive games now. That's the longest in the American League. Gleyber Torres, he was the DH yesterday. He hasn't been anything special. Riley Green, we've talked about his struggles so far. Sorry, you got an on-base of under 300. You got a slug of under 300. Your on-base is better than your slug. He's supposed to slug in the 3-hole. Kerry Carpenter. He's batting $184. How much does that matter? You care about the slug. The slug is not very good. Spencer Torkelson. His slug is worse. It's worse than Green's. It's worse than Carpenter's. McKinstry's supposed to get on base. He's doing that at 27%. That's not good. Javier Baez has been really good so far offensively. He's not been very good defensively. Parker Meadows gets a concussion yesterday running into Riley Green in the 8th inning. I know how people feel about Parker Meadows. He was a .250 hitter. He's a guy who does a really good job defensively. Personally, I thought if he goes on the IL, I know people are saying, here comes Wenzel Perez. What does Max Clark have to do to get a call up?
That's what I was going to say. Is I think that some people, when they're saying that they need to change things up, do you think that they're talking about like the minor leagues, like they need to bring people up from there? That's what I.
There's no doubt about that. They're doing that. Yeah, they have to. If Meadows goes on the IL, that's an open spot on your big league roster.
Sure, I'm saying like fans though, like talking about that. Do you think when they say that the Tigers need to change things up, that they're saying like they need to go and get this guy and bring him up and send this guy down?
Yeah, because it's so reactionary for them.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure. On the other hand, when you've got a guy smacking double after double, hitting 400 in the minor leagues over, is 2 weeks enough for you to judge?
I think it depends on the player and maybe how they finished last year, and that might be what they do. I don't think it's enough to judge. I think baseball is just one of those sports sometimes takes time.
Okay, but can you judge a player?
I think it's possible. Yeah, I don't.
Okay.
I think that's definitely something you can do when it's somebody.
So we have to. That's the thing that I always wonder about. If I'm not going to judge a team after 13 games, can I judge a player after 13 games? And if I can't judge that player or that team after 13 games, why should I be judging a minor league player after that?
That's very fair.
Here's what they keep in mind. If I'm going to bring a guy up, it's not too dissimilar to a goalie in minor league hockey. If I'm going to bring up Sebastian Cossa to be the backup to John Gibson, is he benefiting more by being the backup and getting a start twice a week? Or is he benefiting more by playing in the minors and getting a start 5 to 6 days a week? So if you brought up Max Clark, is he going to play every day in center field? Because he is in Toledo. He's going to get at bats. He's going to see different pitches, right? He's going to have to get different reads on the ball off the bat. Those are the things that he needs experience with. He's a young player who's drafted out of high school. So if you feel that he's the guy you want to bring up, you better be damn sure that he's going to be able to handle it because you want him to play every single day. You can't call a kid up who is playing every day in the minors and play him every once in a while in the majors. It doesn't benefit his growth at all. It stunts his growth. So it's really important for the Tigers to evaluate Max Clark in that regard. And if they think he needs more, then go ahead and call up Wenzel Perez. Have him play some outfield. You're going to have him play more right field than center. And you're probably going to keep Riley Green in left. You don't want to mess with that. So you're going to put Javier Baez in center and Kevin McGonigal at short, which I'm sure a lot of Tigers fans are fine with. And I'm not saying it's wrong. Baez was an all-star center fielder a year ago. He looks very comfortable out there. I have no problem with him in left and center field. So what you're basically deciding is you're deciding Baez is good enough in center. Every once in a while, maybe Perez in center field, but I don't think he tracks as a center fielder. I think he's more of a right fielder. So it's Baez in center. It's McGonigal in short. Wenso Perez comes up, helps you a little bit instead of Max Clark in center every single day. Baez at short, McGonigal at third, and every once in a while, maybe Baez is a DH and giving him the day off and putting McGonigal at shortstop. Those are the things that you're trying to weigh right now. But like I said, if you're going to bring a kid like that up, and he's off to an unbelievable start in Toledo, and he's earned the call up, if you believe in that type of evaluation early on, if that's the case, play him every day. And I don't want to hear people about the gaudy chains and the mistakes in the outfield. It's a spring training game. It's left field instead of center. Be careful when you're judging. He's a really good player. And here's the other thing we need to keep in mind as you take dead aim at your next victim that you feel has to be great, but isn't great enough soon enough. He works his ass off. Everybody you talk to within the organization will tell you he is one of their hardest workers. And that ought to tell you something too. If he's working that hard and he's performing that well and you don't bring him up, is that a message to other people in the organization? The message is supposed to be work, get rewarded. Check that. Work, perform, get rewarded. How's that? That's what's supposed to be the message. If the message is work, perform, don't get promoted, what's everybody else doing? This kid's tearing it up. He's the minor league player of the week. He's got 6 doubles. He's perfect in stolen bases. He doesn't have an error. He's even had a double play. He's got plenty of assists. He's hitting over 400. He is killing pitching here. And he doesn't get called up. It's a strange message to send. Anyway, we'll talk more about that throughout the morning with you. There's no reason to panic, but it is okay to be slightly concerned. We'll explain a little bit later on here on X's and Bros. In the meantime,
The Freddie the Pizza Man Foundation is dedicated to providing support to families and Michigan schools touched by autism. We invite you to join us in supporting these families and schools by making a donation at freddythepizzaman.com. With your donation, you can help provide essential resources that can make a real impact. Visit freddythepizzaman.com to make a donation and to learn more about the foundation's mission. That's FREDI thepizzaman.com. Together, we can make a difference.
Huge here for Josh Garvey and his team at Dorn Mayhew. Now, Josh oversees the West Michigan operations. Dorn Mayhew's worldwide headquarters are in Troy, Michigan, on the east side of the state. They are one of the top accounting, CPA, and business firms in the world. They continue to grow. They can help your business with any accounting, CPA, or business need you have. And also Dorn Mayhew and Josh and the West Michigan operation, they present Talking Hoops with John Beeline. We do it every Tuesday on the Huge Show through the NBA Finals. So how far will the Pistons go in the playoffs? You can hear Coach Beeline, Josh Garvey, and myself every Tuesday on the Huge Show as we talk hoops, presented by one of the world's top accounting, CPA, and business firms, Dorn Mayhew. Josh Garvey oversees the West Michigan operation. Their worldwide headquarters for Dorn Mayhew are in Troy, Michigan.
Hear that? That's the sound of saving a good deal more when you shop with M-Perks at Meijer. Some delicious Cosmic Crisp apples, money saved. Meijer Essential Paper Towels, that's money saved. Savings, savings, savings. Because every dollar spent is also points earned in M-Perks, which you can use to save on your next grocery trip or up to $1 off per gallon on your next tank of gas. At Meijer, we work hard to help you save a good deal more for a whole lot less. That's bringing more good to life. Exclusions apply. See mperks.com for details.
Huge here for all the ABC warehouse stores in Michigan. Your home for the biggest TVs and the biggest deals on TVs. Think about watching the Masters this weekend. and you have a big screen, the biggest one you've ever had, you can get a huge deal right now at your local ABC warehouse store. They also are dropping huge savings on appliances, furniture, mattresses, and more at your local ABC warehouse store all across Michigan. Van Andel Institute Purple Community is a grassroots fundraising network powered by the dedicated volunteers who support VAI's mission to improve human health now and in the future. When you raise funds through the Van Andel Institute Purple Community, 100% of the proceeds go directly to the Institute's research into diseases like cancer and Parkinson's, as well as VAI's science education programs. Learn how you can get involved at purplecommunity.org.
Where are you watching the Tigers this year? Superfly Hayes here for Detroit Sportsnet. Sign up like the Ute Show did with the Detroit Sportsnet Tigers Wings package. Subscription info at tigers.com and MLB.com.
Farrah's Coffee has been family owned and operated for over 100 years. Its popular Den Blend and Dark Roast is more than coffee and more than the official coffee of the Detroit Lions. It's a call to rise. Farrah's Coffee and the Lions are the perfect match. They embrace those who show up early, cheer loud, and never back down. Den Blend is perfectly roasted in Grand Rapids and provides the ultimate fuel for fans who wake up and roar. Whether you're tailgating at the game or cheering from your couch, Den Blend is your go-to coffee for your game day ritual. Real quick, Masters, Sam Burns and defending champ Rory McIlroy share the first round lead at the Masters, both carded 567s. They had a 2-stroke lead starting today over 3 players, including past champ Patrick Reed entering play today. Scotty Scheffler carded to 270. Bryson DeChambeau blew up 4 over 76. That didn't make Andy real happy.
No, it did not.
Andy's got a pool. He's got a pool with his friends where they pick an American-born player to win, a past champion to win, and international player to win, a wild card, and a first-year player. So, if you update that, and this is really the only chance we get to update it, because Monday we'll know that there's a champion. Andy chose Bryson DeChambeau +4 for his American player. I took Scotty Scheffler -2. Andy took for his past champion Rory McIlroy -5. I took John Rahm. That was a brilliant move on my part, don't you think?
I mean, couldn't have done it better myself.
Yeah, I mean, who wouldn't take John Rahm? He's had a really good live tournament, live season last year. He shot a +6. Good job, Matt. Your international player was Sanjay Im. How did he do?
Not good. I'm pretty sure it was +5 or 6. I stopped looking because I was so upset.
You don't sound upset, so that's good.
I'm getting through it, but it's day 2. Like I said to you last night, I'm gonna stay positive for today. That's gonna turn around for me. But it's okay. I mean, honestly, it seemed like a lot of the scores were pretty similar in my pool, just because people picked a lot of the same stuff. But I'm trying to get it up right now to see.
He's a +4. There's a drop.
Yeah.
He was a +4. I took Robert McIntyre, and he was a +8. How do you like them apples?
Not great.
Wild card, to me, I gave it to you, but Scotty's not a wild card. When you're the prohibitive favorite, you're not a wild card. But you took him as a wild card. He was a -2. I took Justin Rose as my wild card. And Justin Rose was actually a pretty good pick, at least for day 1. He's -2. All right. And then your first rounders, or first timers, I should say. I took Chris Gotterup because this is his first Masters. And Chris Gotterup, I think, is even. I got to check on that, but I think he's
That's
even.
really good for a first timer. If you got that.
I got to verify that. Help me with that. Let me see. Yeah, he's even. Okay. So that's not terrible. And you took Lapadecki?
Yep.
Is that right?
Yep. He's +8. So it doesn't play well there. Whatever
Wow.
he was doing well this year does not play well.
Yeah. Okay. So you're a +4, that's +8, and then a +8, that's +16, a -5. So you're still a +11, and then a -2. So you are a +9 after day 1.
That would be correct.
Okay. I am, let's see, +6 and +8, that's 14, but then an even and a -2 and a -2. So I'm a +10. You got me by a stroke so far.
That's the first time I've heard of being in the lead anybody, so at least we're close to each other. The person in first place in my league right now, or bracket, whatever you want to call it, Scotty Scheffler is who he had for his past champ. He had Koepka as his United States guy. Siwoo Kim as the international player was +3. That was probably the worst part. We had Jacob Bridgman as his first time, which I also think was kind of a good pick. He's -1, and then he also had Justin Rose as his wild card -2. So the best score, the best score we have right now is a -2, and then there's only one person to even. Everybody else is at least +1 or worse.
Well, they're not +10 like me. I could tell you that.
Yeah.
Robert McIntyre, and then we'll move on because I know probably people, the Masters really. Robert McIntyre crapped the bed on 15, where he shot the worst hole of any hole on his PGA Tour card. Worst that he's ever had. He had a +9. Or I'm sorry, not a +9. He was it took him 9 strokes on 15 to get home. It's a par 5. So it's a quadruple bogey, but still a 9. Thanks, Robert. Appreciate it very much. Dusty May, Michigan keep winning. Tennessee big man, 6'11" center JT Estrella has committed to the Wolverines. He averaged 10 points, 5.5 boards in 18 minutes for the Volunteers last year. Here's the Mitch Lyons Wealth poll question. Have them for you every single day. Do you think the Pistons are built for the playoffs? Yes, they've proven it all year. No, they need to win a playoff series first. You can vote as often as you want at XB Mornings. I've retweeted it out at ShepMatt. The results tomorrow. All right, via text. Always appreciate it. Want to thank Freddie for staying involved. He's awesome. Whether we agree or not, it doesn't matter. Appreciate his loyalty. I hope Scott Harris is getting sleep with this lineup since he said he lost so much sleep in August and September last year. What used car will he sell us this year? Ouch. Wow. I will say this. Last night on social media, or yesterday on social media, was making the rounds that he's a great salesman and had pictures of him. The general managers, I'm using plural here, in this town, have not addressed the needs the way fans have wanted. Let me stress that. It doesn't mean they're wrong and we're right. Brad Holmes didn't go get the defensive end that you wanted. You felt like it hurt your team. Steve Eisman did not get the hard-to-play against forward who could score, which is, by the way, there's not that many of them in the National Hockey League. And it's hurt his team. You got to get more goals. People said the same thing about Trajan Langdon. Didn't go out and get his three-point shooter. Kevin Huerter has been pretty good at times. His team has not missed a beat. That will come back to haunt him if they can't get to the NBA Finals. And they'll have to get through Boston. In all likelihood, they'll have to get through Boston. And I feel good about that. I feel good that the Pistons should get to the Eastern Conference Finals. That should be our expectation. Don't give me this crap where they haven't won a playoff series. J.B. Bickerstaff said it all season long, and he's right. We have not paid attention enough to it. The way this team plays, and over the last 20 games, they've been shooting the ball really well from three. But over all season long, what have you been most inspired by regarding the Pistons?
The fact that
how hard they play.
Yeah, the fact that every night they come out and give the same exact effort. It doesn't matter if they're missing Cade, if Cade's in the lineup. It doesn't matter who's out there. They find a way to stay in the game.
If it wasn't already taken as a moniker of the going to work Pistons, this team embodies that.
Absolutely. That's what's brought a lot of people back to watch it, I think.
100%. So he's been right. Scott Harris with the Tigers. Many wanted him to address, some starting pitching. If you had the foresight to look and say, you're not going to have Reese Olson, you're not going to have Troy Melton, you're not going to have Jackson Jobe for a while, you got to address the pitching. Unless Ty Madden wins a spot in spring training, which is not happening, obviously, because of the injury. Kiter Montero, something like that. It's not who you want. So he did that. But most people were screaming for a big bat. And let's be honest. The bats were available. He didn't go get them because of his roster construction right now. And you've got to also look at who your core is. You know who your core is. Is this core going to be able to stay together and do good enough work to keep this team relevant in the division? Well, in the league. Forget the division. Our phone number, by the way, on the Meyer hotline is 866-838-4843. You can text us Sports Radio 21,000. We'll talk more about the Tigers on the other side. We welcome your text. We welcome your feedback here on the stream when we stream live on YouTube, Facebook, and X. X's and BrO's, brought to you this second hour by our friends at Meyer.
Van Andel Institute Purple Community is a grassroots fundraising network powered by the dedicated volunteers who support VAI's mission to improve human health now and in the future. When you raise funds through the Van Andel Institute Purple Community, 100% of the proceeds go directly to the Institute's research into diseases like cancer and Parkinson's, as well as VAI's science education programs. Learn how you can get involved at purplecommunity.org. Make sure you listen weekly to our Moving Ferris Forward interviews with Ferris President Bill Pink and other leaders who are moving Ferris forward. Find out more about Big Rapids and Ferris and what they have to offer at ferris.edu.
You've worked hard for decades saving in pre-tax retirement plans like 401ks and IRAs, saving on taxes now. But as your retirement now approaches, you're going to get taxed at rates you have no control over. Hi, I'm Mitch Lyons, founder of Mitch Lyons Wealth. Your 401k balance isn't worth what your statement says. You could lose thousands of dollars to taxes, and those distributions can impact other areas of your retirement like Social Security and Medicare. Could a Roth IRA conversion be of help to you? You've probably heard of Roth conversions, but it can be confusing. Should you convert all at once or over time? Where should you pay the taxes from? How do you know for sure? Get our free personalized Roth Blueprint analysis today to find out exactly what makes sense for you. Your Roth Blueprint could potentially increase your lifetime wealth by thousands of dollars. So get your free Roth Blueprint today. Text Blueprint to 844-867-8335. That's Blueprint to 844-867-8335. Or go to MitchLyonsWealth.com, your best game plan to protect, grow, and win retirement.
Huge here for Van Andel Institute Purple Community. Now, they're a grassroots fundraising network powered by the volunteers who support VAI's mission to improve health now and in the future. Learn more at purplecommunity.org.
I didn't hit the ball very well the first 7 holes, and sometimes here that would lead me to get tentative and a little guidey, and I kept swinging, just trusting that I'm going to find it eventually, and maybe that was a little bit different.
That's Rory McIlroy, the co-leader after round 1 at the Masters at 5 under par. You ever felt that way on the golf course? If you're a guy who likes to play that sport, and I love it, I do. I'm not very good at it.
Right there with you. Just played yesterday.
Yeah. Did you?
I did.
Yep. And how'd you do?
Honestly, see, this is going to sound like a bunch of BS just because I'm saying, but I shot a 44, and for me, that's really good. And I was happy with that. So I played at Thornapple Point. Don't know if you ever played there over on the side of the state, but it's a pretty nice public course over here. So
nice. So you only played 9?
Yep, just 9. Yep.
I feel unfulfilled playing 9 holes.
100%. Yesterday, I could have went easily 18. We all regretted it by the time we got to 9.
Did you have to walk?
No, we were able to play. There has been a lot of flooding down here on the west side of the state, which has been a big deal. But the Thornapple River that's by, not the same as the Grand River. The Grand River's probably got a bunch of runoff coming from up north or something. But yeah, it was, that course was honestly pretty dry for the most part. The last tee box we played on was like the only one that was like, relatively mushy when you stepped on it.
Yeah, I was just wondering when courses start to allow you to use the carts, because I played 2 weeks ago in East Lansing at Forest Acres, and they wouldn't allow carts. I had to walk it, which is fine. I mean, it's been a long time since I've walked 18, but it's, it was fine. It was cold to start. We teed off. I think it was sunny outside. We teed off. It was 28 degrees.
Yeah, that's you're out there at that point.
That's the coldest I've ever played. And now we get warmed up to 40.
I played at Grand Valley's course, the Meadows, one time. I remember when it was like actually snowing. Like we didn't think it was gonna be that bad. We still showed up, and then it was just that bad. But
yeah. Sometimes those are enjoyable rounds. I wouldn't want to walk that if it's snowing. But I've been there, done that in the snow and the rain. And look, we treasure our golf months here in this state. Absolutely. I think we're top 5 in public golf courses in the country. The amount of rounds that Michigan plays is among the most in the nation, because I mean, we just cram it in. And I'm playing tomorrow. I don't care what the temperature is. I'm going to play tomorrow.
I love that attitude. That's the main reason we ended up playing 9 yesterday, because we did see that like some rain was going to be down here, and I'm also going to Detroit this weekend with a couple of friends, so there's that too. But yeah, that's we just had to get around it.
What's the lowest you've ever had
in a round? Well, I play in a league at a course that's not that tough. It's just at 9 holes, but I have shot at 39 there before. But nice. That's the best I've ever shot. So this is coming from a baseball guy who my grandpa actually used to teach lessons at a course called Gull Lake. I've heard of Gull Lake. He completely changed my swing like 2 years ago, and it's progressively continued to make me better. So I thank him for it I guess my advice is, if you've never gotten lessons, you should try to do it. That's for sure.
I've said the same thing. I probably need to take some lessons, or at least some, have somebody look at my swing and help me a little bit. I did have somebody say to me, and this guy, I played a couple of rounds with him. He played on the Canadian tour, so he could play. I mean, he played in college and he played in the Canadian tour. He saw me right away and he's like, "Hey, your left hand you've got to have a stronger left hand." So I moved my hand on the club a little bit to the right. It's made a massive difference for me. The ball goes a lot
exactly
straighter.
Like my grandpa talked to me that day at the range.
So they see, there's a lot of different things that are going on. That's good, man. I'm happy for you. Here's part of the problem. I saw an interview yesterday with Dan Hurley, and I think he was on the Dan Patrick Show, and they were talking about NIL and how this is the hardest part for coaches. It comes across sometimes as, coaches are upset about it. But remember, you've got to listen to the entire response to what NIL is all about. And as good as it may be for kids, and it's really good for kids. It's not that anybody feels like it's undeserving. it's just a lot for coaches that you finish your season and immediately, like Dusty May, he pops right back into the NIL portal. All right. Which kind of go hand in hand. All right. And this is part of the problem. The problem is you're trying to figure out whether you're going to keep your guys and which guys are coming in. You can't take a guy coming in if you don't have the spots from your team, because what you've done is you've gone out and you've recruited people. Obviously, the recruits you hope stay with you, because a lot of guys will be a little mealy mouth about it and decide to bolt. And you can't obviously give guys spots that you don't have. At least not good coaches do that. And then you've got players out there who say they're going to commit, and then they change their minds, both from an NIL or a portal standpoint and from a recruiting standpoint. But here's a deeper problem. Have you heard of the kid Olivier Riol? He's from Canada. He's 7'9", and he played at Florida this past year. I don't know if you've heard of him.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure.
Okay.
I feel like once the NCAA tournament came around, I think he was all over the TV just because of his height.
Did you see his numbers this year?
No, not specifically.
Okay. So his numbers, he averaged a half a point a game and a half a rebound a game. And the belief is that he is now in the portal and he wants $3 million a year.
It's absolutely crazy. I mean, this goes back to sometimes doesn't matter how much a player's worth or wants. Sometimes it's what you can get out of them too, you know.
But this is where we've gone. And I think it's a deep problem. It's a serious issue. And it's got to be rectified. Something's got to be done. Why do you think so many schools are hiring general managers? They're hiring general managers because while you're trying to coach and you're trying to put together game plans and you're trying to make your current roster better, you've got to have somebody else out there who's monitoring all those other players who might fit your system someday and figure out how much they're worth for your program.
I mean, just hearing the word general manager, you immediately go to pro sports, right? In your mind. That's that.
It has to be run that way.
It's crazy.
College sports we are in a sphere of college sports that requires it to be run like, in this case, an NBA franchise. And that's what Dan Hurley said. Dusty May hasn't come out and said that. Tom Izzo hasn't come out and said that. But deep down inside, because those guys, they don't feel like they have to answer to anybody. Why would you? Maybe answer to your athletic director. Okay. Maybe you've got to figure out exactly what the responsibilities of a general manager might be that doesn't hamper you as a coach. You've got to be part of those. Remember, you are the one who has to coach those players. That's what happens in the NBA. Trajan Langen gets the players. Sure. Is J.B. Bickerstaff part of it? Absolutely. No doubt. But he's the guy who's got to have to coach those players. Those players come in, they got to be the right fit. And if they're not, you can waive them in the NBA. You can send them to the G League in the NBA. You're not doing that in college basketball. Ask Mark Pope in Kentucky. How did those 5 stars work out? How did those guys who make a lot of money? They had a $22 million payroll this year. You need general managers. You in just about every sport, especially if you're in a Power 4 conference. You got to have a guy who could say no to this kid who may be 7'9", but sure as hell isn't worth $3 million a year. All right, when we come back, a guy who seems to constantly have his former team, and it's a Detroit team, on his mind because all he does is talk about them. It's weird, but we'll talk about that on the other side. This is X's and Bros on a Friday morning, brought to you by Meyer.
Huge here for Josh Garvey and his team at Dorn Mayhew. Now, Josh oversees the West Michigan operations. Dorn Mayhew's worldwide headquarters are in Troy, Michigan, on the east side of the state. They are one of the top accounting, CPA, and business firms in the world. They continue to grow. They can help your business with any accounting, CPA, or business need you have. And also Dorn Mayhew and Josh and the West Michigan operation. They present Talking Hoops with John Beeline. We do it every Tuesday on the Huge Show through the NBA Finals. So how far will the Pistons go in the playoffs? You can hear Coach Beeline, Josh Garvey, and myself every Tuesday on the Huge Show as we talk hoops, presented by one of the world's top accounting, CPA, and business firms, Dorn Mayhew. Josh Garvey oversees the West Michigan operation. Their worldwide headquarters for Dorn Mayhew are in Troy, Michigan.
Ferris Coffee has been family owned and operated for over 100 years. Its popular Den Blend and Dark Roast is more than coffee and more than the official coffee of the Detroit Lions. It's a call to rise. Ferris Coffee and the Lions are the perfect match. They embrace those who show up early, cheer loud, and never back down. Den Blend is perfectly roasted in Grand Rapids and provides the ultimate fuel for fans who wake up and roar. Whether you're tailgating at the game or cheering from your couch, Den Blend is your go-to coffee for your game day ritual.
Huge here for Van Andel Institute Purple Community. Now, they're a grassroots fundraising network powered by the volunteers who support VAI's mission to improve health now and in the future. Learn more at purplecommunity.org.
Where are you watching the Tigers this year? Superfly Hayes here for Detroit Sportsnet. Sign up like the Ute Show did with the Detroit Sportsnet Tigers Wings package. Subscription info at tigers.com and MLB.com.
Make sure you listen weekly to our Moving Ferris Forward interviews with Ferris President Bill Pink and other leaders who are moving Ferris forward. Find out more about Big Rapids and Ferris and what they have to offer at ferris.edu.
Okay, 35 after the hour. Welcome back. X's and Bros, Monday through Friday, 6 until 9. Don't forget the huge show a little bit later on today, 3 until 7. So Billy will be talking about a lot of the things that we've discussed. He'll be talking about the Red Wings win last night over the Flyers 6-3, and Dylan Larkin's hat trick and Mo Sider's 5 points. He'll be talking about Michigan's double overtime loss to Denver in the Frozen Four, in which Michigan is now 1-9 in their last 10 trips to the Frozen Four. They've lost their last 5 in overtime. Since 1989, when they won their last, or 1998, excuse me, when they won their last college hockey national title, they've been to the Frozen Four 10 times. That's pretty damn good, but they're 1-9 during that stretch. That's tough to swallow. We'll be talking about the Tigers' loss, 3-1 to Minnesota, a Twins team that just swept Detroit in a 4-game series. Again, it's not something that you have to believe the season is over, but you can feel disappointed. It's not a reason to panic, but there is a reason to panic or to be concerned. If you look at Spencer Torkelson, Kerry Carpenter, and Riley Green, all three guys who I like very much, who I believe in, but their struggles, and knowing that they were not drafted by Scott Harris, and I think that's a harder thing to deal with when baseball than anything else. General manager comes in, he wants quote unquote his guys. When you spend as much time as an organization does in baseball in nurturing young talent, you're going to let it play out. You can bring in competition for them. You can draft guys who eventually might take their position or play that same position, but it's not going to be right away. Should Scott Harris have gone out and signed Pete Alonso like Baltimore did? That was a debate. A lot of people felt like that was something that should have been on the table. Baltimore went out, gave him a big deal. It's easy for us to say that. Why don't you do that? Well, Pete Alonso's got 1 homer so far, you guys. He's batting $188. He's got a slug of under 300. And he's driven in 3 runs. So when we talk about these things, and that was a common name, and I get who Pete Alonso is, okay? I think he's a good player. You're not a 5-time All-Star. You're not a Silver Slugger. You're not a Rookie of the Year if you don't accomplish something. He's been pretty damn good. Then you have to weigh, is his production, and again, it's early, so people in Baltimore, I hope they're not deciding whether or not he's been good or not. But remember, I mean, he signed a 5-year contract where he's going to make $33.5 million. When he's 35 years old, he's going to make $33.5 million. You and I can suggest they do that when he's a free agent. Are we living with the ramifications? It's easy for you and I to go, well, big deal. Good thing they didn't do that. You can't say that and expect to keep your job if you've got an owner who's asking why. Why is this guy not performing to the level you expected? And Baltimore's 6-6, by the way. Again, way too early. I'm sure Pete Alonso is going to have a very good year. I'm just using that as an example. That's all. But I think there's a lot of people who felt like, you know what? This is an issue. You've got to help your core out with more than just young players. If you look at that team, you say to yourself, high end, okay, what's the ceiling? Parker Meadows is never going to be a home run hitter. He's a defensive player who you hope can get on base, but the on-base percentage is not necessarily there. Right? I mean, is that how you evaluate him? That's how I evaluate him. I never expect him to hit for power. If you do, you're going to be very disappointed because he's never hit more than 9 homers in a season. I'm not saying that's his ceiling, but I would be stunned if he ever hit more than 15 in a year. You need him to get on base. His on-base percentage is 30% for his career. not good enough. So suddenly, if you're not going to get on base, you become a defensive replacement. Javier Baez, we all know what's happened there. Gleyber Torres is a one-year stop. Dylan Dingler, you think, is a long-time solution at the catcher position. Kevin McGonigal, it's probably way too early to judge him. I mean, he's batting 286. He's got a nice on-base percentage. I like his approach, but I'm not going to decide what kind of player he is yet when he's got 12, 13 collective games under his major league belt. It's not fair, and it's kind of short-sighted. Those other three guys, it's different. Green, Carpenter, and Torkelson, it is different. They are supposed to lead your team. We believe Tarek Skubal should lead your team on the mound. We believe Casey Mize should, and obviously the addition of Framber Valdez. If we believe Finnegan and Jansen and Vest should lead your team out of the bullpen, especially the back end, you had to pick three guys who are supposed to lead your team. Don't give me Kevin McGonigal now, okay? Shep, he's supposed to lead our team because he's the second best player Detroit's, or within the second best minor league prospect in all of baseball. Nope. Don't expect him to lead your team right now. I don't think Pittsburgh's expecting that from Connor Griffin. I don't think St. Louis is expecting that from J.J. Weatherholt. And if they are, they're making a big mistake. Torkelson's got enough at-bats. Green's got enough appearances. Carpenter's seen enough pitches for those guys to be your leaders. If you're going to put pressure on teams, you may not have to do it with just one guy, but if you want to do it, you can do it with a core of players. And those three guys need to come through, period. This team, in all likelihood, will go as far as those trio of players will take them. It's a team sport. Others have to step forward. You can't always rely on those guys. I get it. I'm talking about collectively in a big picture type situation. They are key and huge to this team's success.
No, I think that's 100% right. And I think the clock's kind of ticking on that. I feel like for the fan base, that's continue to get sold, to them over and over again. And these are like the three guys. This is going to be the core. I mean, if they have another season at all, like the end of last season was, I don't see how you keep going forward with it as being your three main guys.
Yeah. There are plenty of people who have. I've always asked this of people: how long does it take for you to decide on whether or not you think a player is worth saving or keeping, having in general? Somebody said to me the other day, I gave up on Torkelson 3 years ago. And I said, you gave up on a guy 3 years ago? A year after he hit 31 homers and drove in 94 runs, you gave up on him. What about last year when he had 31 bombs? And it's probably not enough. If you get 650 plate appearances and you get 31 bombs, and you're supposed to be a home run hitter, that's not a lot. You should be at 40.
Yeah, I mean, with where he was taken too. I mean, that's a part of it as well. I think people still think back to that all the time.
Sure, they do.
It should be that. Yeah.
Yeah, they think of the number one overall pick. Right. And I get it. Too much is expected at the number one overall pick. I don't disagree with that at all. Okay. I mean, sometimes I think it's a little hard. I think it's a little challenging for number one overall picks when you go through COVID and we expect it right away.
And he probably didn't get the minor league at bats that he needed, to be honest, before the Tigers decided he was going to be on the team.
No, he did not. I mean, I've said that has been my case for him for a long, long time. It is viewed, however, as excuses. And I'm not trying to make excuses at all, because there are no excuses anymore. But I did say before he came up, I did say in the minors, you need about 1,500 at bats. Most people will tell you in the minor leagues, you need about 1,500 at bats. So for example, We just talked about Pete Alonso, didn't we? Pete Alonso was the rookie of the year. And people get wrapped up in his home run power. And I understand that. I do. He's a home run hitting first baseman. That's where you want a lot of your power to come from. Pete Alonso had 1,000 at-bats in the minor leagues. Spencer Torkelson had 780. 788 to be exact. Now, you may not think like that's a lot. 220 more at-bats. 220 more at-bats, think about that. If you're talking about, hopefully, somewhere in the neighborhood of 800 pitches. There's a big deal to that. The thing we look at, unfairly so, is that we compare Major League Baseball's 1-1 to basketball's 1-1 and to football's 1-1. And it's just not a fair comparison. We think it's pretty damn easy to do that. And we forget, if it's not ours, who was last year's number 1 overall pick? Any idea? I didn't think so. Eli Willits was the last year's number 1 overall pick. He's a high school shortstop, went to the Washington Nationals. How about the year before? It's Travis Bazzana. So you didn't know that either. And I don't necessarily blame you because it's not associated with the Detroit Tigers. I understand that. Okay? Gunnar Henderson was the number 1 overall pick. Do you like Gunnar Henderson? Jackson Holiday. I'm sorry, Jackson Holiday.
Yeah, he's been a good player for them for sure.
Yeah, who wouldn't like Jackson Holiday? How is that working out? Seriously, how much do you like Jackson Holiday with his dad? His dad's Matt Holiday, really good player. I like Jackson Merrill, but how much do you like about Jackson Holiday? Baltimore like him? I would guess so. He's a 229 career hitter. As a first overall pick last year, he hit 242 with 17 homers. You just got done saying, Andy, he's been a really good player for them. Has he really? You think a guy who's batting 242, slugs 375, has been a good player?
That's probably not good enough, no.
as a one overall pick. How about Henry Davis? Henry Davis was so important to Pittsburgh, they got rid of him. Do you like Royce Lewis from Minnesota? He can't stay healthy.
I was going to say he did until all these injuries. And, now it just seems – yesterday I think during a swing he got hurt.
I'm not making excuses. There's no question he's got to be better. I'm just saying, you mentioned the 1-1 and you're right. Detroit had 1-1s. They weren't back-to-back. Casey Mize, then it was Adley Rushman, who I loved. I thought he was fantastic at Oregon State. Started out great. And then it was a serious problem. And then it was Torkelson. Detroit had 2 out of 3 as a 1-1.
Yeah, for me, I'm going more to the fans on that. I don't think that, for me, my expectations just kind of changed after I feel like I realized what he is going to be as a player. Now, maybe he grows into being better, but it kind of seems like some of the same problems keep sticking around year after year. What year is this for Torkelson? This has got to be 5 now. It's 5th year. So I feel I don't know when you stick with the judgment or when it's fair to say what somebody's going to be. Maybe he still does have more to come, but I take less stock in the 1-1 and more just the fact that I don't think he had enough time in the minor leagues to really get a fair assessment. Like going that far back, it's so important. Especially, I've seen a bunch of players develop and become maybe better for a little bit because they do have more time in the minor leagues. Mike Trout, one of the best players out there, he had a lot more at bats in the minor leagues than
he had like 1,400 at bats in the minor leagues,
and that's key.
It's really important. On the other hand, Spencer Torkelson now has close to 2,000 at bats in the major leagues, and you've got to be better than 226.
Absolutely. If you're getting this much time hitting in the spot that he's hitting in their lineup, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. His average is 25 homers in a season. His batting average is 226. His slug is 400. And you'd like all of them to be higher. That's all. But it's for some reason it's the focus is only on him. Now, there was a stretch in Major League Baseball where you had Strasburg and you had Harper and you had Garrett Cole and you had Carlos Correa. Those were all 1-1s. Those are all home runs for sure. So they're measured against those guys too.
I think a lot of
you
people
don't want to go far. You don't want to go as far back as Joe Mauer and Josh Hamilton. That's fine. I get it. You want to go with the recent. And quite honestly, Tigers fans, and rightfully so, shouldn't give a rat's ass about how well other people have done or not done as number one overall picks. All you should care about is your guy. So I don't blame you there at all. It's exactly what you should be doing. You expect more? Good. Expect more. He's got to deliver because he hasn't done it so far.
Yeah, I think when you say deliver too, that's the other part. It's been highly documented with him with like runners in second and third and two outs in scoring position. I think that's the biggest thing that's frustrated people is he doesn't come through. You think with that guy being a core piece of your team, that's the guy you expect to come through in those moments. And him and Riley Green both haven't done that enough.
100%. Then it begs the question, has Kerry Carpenter? See,
I'm gonna be honest with you.
There are certain moments you remember.
Yeah, exactly.
And with Carpenter, you remember the moment against Cleveland.
Yep.
And it brings a smile to your face, and I get it.
In the big home run last year against Seattle, but yeah, you think about like the specific moments. Like that's like I feel like if I were to really think about it over time, he probably hasn't had that many big hits and they need to drive and runs because really none of them have.
Yeah, and here's the other thing. People look at that and they're like, well, but he wasn't a first round pick, which shouldn't matter right now. That doesn't matter at all. All that matters is what you've done as a professional. I don't care if he was a 19th round pick. That doesn't matter to me. What matters is, and where'd he go? Virginia Tech, I think. Is that where he went? I can't remember. I think so. Yeah, Virginia Tech. All that matters is by now, once you've played, Torkelson 5 years, this is Carpenter's 5th year. He's got, 1,300 at bats, whatever it is. It's probably 1,300, pretty close to it, right? What is he averaging? He's averaging 31 bombs per year, and he's hitting 265. I always ask this question. How much is enough for you? What is salvageable? If this team had been to an ALCS or a World Series or won a couple of divisions, it wouldn't matter to you. We wouldn't even be talking about this. The problem is that they haven't done that. And when you are a core piece, you carry that load. It's no different than Dylan Larkin carrying the load of the Red Wings and why people are questioning him, even though he scored a hat trick and 34 goals last night, a career high for him. Our phone number on the Meijer hotline is 866-838-4843. Text line is Sports Radio 21,000. When we come back, this athlete used to play here, no longer does, but seems obsessed with bashing his team or his old team. We'll explain after this. This is X's and Bros on a Friday morning, brought to you by Meijer.
Mitch Lyons here, founder of Mitch Lyons Wealth, where we create your best game plan to protect, grow, and win retirement. I'm here with Tiger legend Kirk Gibson, who we are proud to support and partner with on the newly opened Kirk Gibson Center for Parkinson's Wellness.
Thanks, Mitch. We appreciate your support, and we are excited to have recently opened the center in Farmington Hills. It provides exercise therapy and educational programs that are helping the Parkinson's community, just like Mitch Lyons Wealth helps improve the quality for their clients' retirements. This center helps improve the quality of life for people with Parkinson's.
And Gibby, the best part of all is that access to the center is available to the Parkinson's community free of charge, right?
That's right, absolutely free of charge for people with Parkinson's and their care partners.
You hit a couple of the most famous home runs in Major League history, Gibby, but I feel that your greatest hit will be the positive impact the Kirk Gibson Center is making in the fight against Parkinson's.
Mitch, since my diagnosis, I get up every day and focus on winning that day. This center encourages others to do the same.
Awesome, Gibby. To learn more, go to kirkgibsoncenter.org.
Huge here for the Michigan High School Athletic Association. You can stay up to date on the latest from Lansing 24/7 at MHSAA.com, at MHSAA on Twitter, and MHSAA on Facebook. The latest news, press releases, and stories connected to every high school in the state of Michigan, available for you 24/7 from the Michigan High School Athletic Association. Log on to MHSAA.com, at MHSAA on Twitter, and MHSAA on Facebook. And if you're looking for archive, boys and girls, high school sports, MHSAA.TV. That's MHSAA.TV. 24/7, everything you need to know about high school sports in Michigan. Log on to MHSAA.com.
Hear that? That's the sound of saving a good deal more when you shop with M-Perks at Meijer. Some delicious Cosmic Crisp apples, money saved. Meijer Essential Paper Towels, that's money saved. Savings, savings, savings. Because every dollar spent is also points earned in M-Perks, which you can use to save on your next grocery trip or up to $1 off per gallon on your next tank of gas. At Meijer, we work hard to help you save a good deal more for a whole lot less. That's bringing more good to life. Exclusions apply. See mperks.com for details.
The Freddie the Pizza Man Foundation is dedicated to providing support to families and Michigan schools touched by autism. We invite you to join us in supporting these families and schools by making a donation at freddythepizzaman.com. With your donation, you can help provide essential resources that can make a real impact. Visit freddythepizzaman.com to make a donation and to learn more about the foundation's mission. That's FREDI thepizzaman.com. Together, we can make a difference.
What's up, Michigan? You're listening to my good friend Shep. The Huge Show is coming up later today at 3, right here on the Michigan Sports Network.
being with us. Don't forget about the Mitch Lyons poll question of the day. We have them for you every single day that we're on the air. And today we ask you this. Do you think the Pistons are built for the playoffs? Yes, they've proven it all year. No, they need to win a playoff series first. The results come your way on Monday after you vote as often as you would like. Freddie said, what are your thoughts of Jacksonville making Travis Hunter a full-time cornerback now? I thought it would be the opposite. I thought it would be a corner the whole time. I think it is harder in football to find a great corner than it is a wide receiver. I think he's better at that position than he is as a wide receiver, so it's not surprising to me. I didn't think he could play both. I think he could every once in a while. Charles Woodson did it once in a while. Deion Sanders did it every once in a while. I don't think Travis Hunter is either one of those players. Those are two Hall of Fame players. Those are two of the best players to ever play their positions. Deion Sanders, I've argued, is the best cover corner the league has ever seen. Charles Woodson is one of the greatest defensive backs the league has ever seen. Ronnie Lott is in that conversation. For me, Rod Woodson is in that conversation. In other words, guys who played corner and moved to safety and could move back. That's how good they were. Travis Hunter is not that. It's interesting. How successful do you think he was? How good of a player was he last year? I don't think he didn't stand out to me. I mean, he got hurt too, but he didn't stand out to me. So I'm guessing that, he's going to be a good player. I don't know how good. We'll have to wait and see. But if you looked at, can he be, they should be happy if he's Darius Slay. Darius Slay was a really good cover corner. Really good cover corner. There's a guy like Kenny Riley who played for Cincinnati way back in the day. If you're Patrick Peterson, I'm just trying to bring up some recent names. I'm not going to go back to Mel Renfro and Herb Adderley and guys like that. But Mike Haynes, who was a hell of a player. But there are certain guys, if you broke the league down into tiers, okay? Tier 1 being the best of all time. I think Darius Slay is somewhere in the neighborhood of probably a tier 4 guy. This is just my guess. Darrelle Revis is among the elite. Deion Sanders. As I mentioned, Charles Woodson, Rod Woodson. I saw something like this the other day, and they had broken that down, and those three guys they also had, who was the other one? Dick Nitrate Lane. I mean, how the hell am I supposed to remember? I think Darryl Green was an unbelievable player. I don't think Travis Hunter is any of those guys. But that's an early read on my part. Champ Bailey was a hell of a defensive back, right? If you were as good as Lem Barney or Aeneas Williams was, you should be really happy. But how many of those guys could play both ways? I'm trying to think about it. I know everybody says bigger, stronger, better these days compared to back in the day. How many of these guys are playing both ways? Rod Woodson was an NCAA champion track athlete. Charles Woodson is a Heisman Trophy winner. Darrelle Revis is considered one of the... They didn't play Darrelle Revis on offense, for crying out loud. Lions never said to Lem Barney, hey, why don't you play a little offense for us? And he's a phenomenal player. Stephon Gilmore was a really good cover corner. Did they ask him to play offense? I just didn't think Travis Hunter was one of those guys who would play both ways. How about Z-Mac, the All-Star Silver Slugger, every at-bat, and what he means to that team? I assume Z-Mac is Zach McKinstry. All-Star Silver Slugger, there's a little asterisk there. How good is he, and how important do you think he is? Look, hey, man, he's a chip, right, Andy? Fire up.
He sure is. Yeah, he was there. He was there. His last year was when I was still there covering stuff at Central Michigan. So,
all right, and so you covered him a little bit in college. Was he that good there?
That team was good because they made it to the Final Four there for the NCAA. But I didn't. Out of all the players in that team, I didn't think he'd be the one that I'd be hearing the most about. That's for sure.
I like him in a certain role. Okay. I think a lot is made of him. Again, good guy, not being judgmental on the type of person that he is. I root the hell out of him for it because he went to Central Michigan, because he's from neighboring Toledo, and because he is a good dude. I am not building my team around him, and I am not expecting him to carry my club.
No, and I think it's crazy. You know, AJ Hinch sometimes still calls him like an all-star and stuff like that. It's like I get it. Like it's his player. He's gonna stick up for him. I just look at it as like that's probably not realistic every season that he's gonna be an all-star or anything like that.
And he's a 231 lifetime hitter who's got an on-base percentage in his career under 300.
Yeah,
and it's not a small sample size.
I have a coworker who at Wood who is a huge Cubs fan. He couldn't get rid of Zach McKinstry fast enough and couldn't laugh hard enough when the Tigers took him on. And last year when he made the All-Star team, he just was like in denial that was even possible. So
that's because he's got something predetermined.
Exactly.
So he's a Cubs fan, and he saw him play with the Cubs, even though it was only 1 year, and he hit 200. It was 1 year and he hit 200. That's how he was judged.
That's enough for him. Yep.
By your buddy. Yeah, that was enough. But in fairness to your friend, he was 27 years old. He hadn't had a lot of at-bats prior to. Your friend is judging Zach McKinstry off 47 games.
100%.
Think about that for a minute. Next time he has a battle with you, and you're working with Jack Doles in the Wood Channel 8 sports department, and he says, Zach McKinstry, I told you, but hold on a second, Hoss. You judged him on 47 games, and he wasn't very good. I'm not going to disagree with you. You judged him on 47 games. Perhaps, just perhaps, that was a season where had he been given the opportunity to play a little bit more for a team that was under 500, you Cubs slappy, that year they were under 500, maybe he should have gotten more of an opportunity.
This is
because when he came to Detroit and got an opportunity, he was a hell of a lot better than that.
This is why I need you, Shep. I did not know that he played only 47 games in that season for the Cubs. That makes a huge difference, and that's definitely something I could use.
Yeah, use that, or have your buddy listen to you and I in the mornings, and maybe he'll learn a little something. I'm not saying he's an all-star, and I'm not saying he's a silver slugger, and I'm not saying this is a guy who is somebody is at the core of what this team should be all about. But you know what you can't do? You can't take things away from guys who've already accomplished it. Last year, he had 500 at-bats. He was an all-star and a silver slugger. And you're going to take that away from him because you didn't like him in Chicago 3 or 4 years ago where he had 47 games played? Come on, man.
That's crazy. Yeah. That part of it is like, believe it or not, even some players can get better, even if they do get closer to that 30-year, mark. It's not impossible. So, but again, I'm not sitting here telling you that he needs to be in the everyday lineup. It's just, I do think he's a good utility player.
I do too. And I would like a guy like that. Freddie's being tongue in cheek here when he's talking about him. So I understand that. He's not talking about how great he is. But how much are you going to pay a guy like that? Think about this. You're getting a guy who last year was an all-star. That's taken by the players, by the way. That's taken by the manager. Take it as an all-star, voted a silver slugger, and you got him for $4 million. And you got a guy who can play right field, shortstop, second base, and third base. And sure, he pitches once in a while. But that's what you're getting out of a guy like that. That's exactly what you want. Don't tell me there's not every team in the league. Now, would you want more production? Yes, I get it. Okay. But every team in the league, a guy coming off of 12, he had 12 homers last year, Andy. For a guy who doesn't have any power. Again, understand what he is. That's the first thing you have to embrace. Embrace the fact that he is strictly a utility guy. That he's going to come in and help you steal bases, versatility, lefty you can get on base every once in a while, but you're not going to start him every day. And he comes relatively cheap. That's what you want. Quick timeout. We're brought to you by Avello Airlines, AvelloAir.com on a Friday morning.
In the Den with Dan Dickerson. Hey, Tigers fans, a new baseball season means a new season on Michigan's favorite island destination, Mackinac Island. Baseball, spring, and Mackinac Island. Things that return every year, reminding us what a great state we live in. Shake off the winter blahs, take in a game, and plan your trip to America's top summer destination, MackinacIsland.org.
The biggest surprise early this season hasn't just been the Tigers losing 8 of their first 12 games. It's how they're losing with poor starting pitching. The Tigers just went through one full turn in the rotation with no starter lasting more than 5 innings. In those 5 starts, the Tigers allowed 27 runs in 22 innings. In 2 starts from aces Skubal and Valdez, 12 runs on 18 hits. Fangraphs ranked the Tigers' rotation second best in the major leagues going into the season. And I still believe it's the strength of this team. It's just so strange to watch the starters struggle so mightily against below-average offenses 5 starts in a row.
Hear that? That's the sound of saving a good deal more when you shop with M-Perks at Meijer. Some delicious Cosmic Crisp apples, money saved. Meijer Essential Paper Towels, that's money saved. Savings, savings, savings. Because every dollar spent is also points earned in M-Perks, which you can use to save on your next grocery trip or up to $1 off per gallon on your next tank of gas. At Meijer, we work hard to help you save a good deal more for a whole lot less. That's bringing more good to life. Exclusions apply. See mperks.com for details.
Huge here for all the ABC warehouse stores in Michigan. Your home for the biggest TVs and the biggest deals on TVs. Think about watching the Masters this weekend and you have a big screen, the biggest one you've ever had. You can get a huge deal right now at your local ABC warehouse store. They also are dropping huge savings on appliances, furniture, mattresses, and more at your local ABC warehouse store all across Michigan. Coming up later today at 3 on The Huge Show on the Michigan Sports Network, I'll deliver huge opinions on everything you're talking about.
$18 after the hour. Welcome back. There are certain players who they leave your town and you appreciate everything that they gave you, right? And they may have been your favorite, but at some point, and you can't figure out why the team let him go or why they wanted to leave. But at some point, that person may piss you off, even though they were one of those guys that you greatly respected. You may not have loved him. Alex Anzalone might be that guy. You may not have loved him while he was here, but the 31-year-old gave it everything he possibly could here in Detroit. And he was a good player. He wasn't a great player. He wasn't a Pro Bowl. He wasn't an All-Pro. He was a very good player for the Lions. He was better in Detroit than he was in New Orleans, right? There's a reason he was named captain. He had a very close relationship with Aiden Hutchinson. He had a very close relationship with Dan Campbell. Recently, ever since he has signed a 2-year contract with Tampa, now, if you recall, last year, training camp, he didn't hold out, but he was vocal about how he wanted to be paid more appropriately to what he's accomplished in his career. And the Lions said, you know what? Let's give you a little bit of extra. So I think he made a little bit more than $6 million last year. He wanted a multi-year deal. The Lions are not willing to go there. At some point, with some players, you have to, in the words of Bob Seger, turn the page. So they did that with Alex Anzalone. He signed a 2-year contract in Tampa. When he came to Detroit, I can't recall him saying a lot about the New Orleans Saints. I don't remember him saying, I spent 4 years in New Orleans and they never really gave me the shot that I deserved because he was only healthy for two of those 4 years. And in those 2 years, of the 32 games he played, he started 16 of them. So half. So if a guy was like that, you'd say, hey, man, how come you're not giving me the opportunity? I had 59 tackles my second year in the pros, and I started 7 games, and I was productive. Don't know. Don't remember him talking a lot about his time in New Orleans, maybe past the first year with Detroit in 2021. When you get to a new town, a new city, people are going to ask you about that, and I get that. But after that first year, it was over, right? He didn't really talk about the Saints much. He was talking about the new beginning, the opportunity to play here. What did Detroit allow him to do? First year, he played 14 games and made 14 starts. The next year, 17 games and 17 starts. In 2023, 16 games played, 16 starts. 2024, injured because of the broken arm, 10 games played, 10 starts. And last year, in all 16 games he played, he started. In other words, for Detroit, he played 73 games and made 73 starts. Playing in Detroit, and he earned it, but playing in Detroit, given that opportunity, means he got that extra year on the contract from Tampa. Tampa's not signing him to a multi-year deal if he doesn't do what he did in Detroit. He doesn't do in Detroit what he doesn't earn, but in order for him to earn that, the Lions had to give him the chance. He's obsessed with talking about why he's not back in Detroit. He can talk about how happy he is in Tampa all he wants. There's not many people going to believe him because all he seems to do is talk about the Detroit Lions. Listen to what he recently said on a podcast.
Didn't come back to you weren't playing well. It didn't come back to Dan saying, yeah, we want to move on. Dan told me he wanted me back. It didn't come down to that. It literally just came down to finances and what they could and couldn't afford. And, that's kind of just, it's the nature of the beast. It's the business. And that's, the front office made decisions of where they want to invest money. And it wasn't in me. And, it is what it is.
In fairness to Alex Anzalone, maybe he's just answering a question. What happened to Detroit? And then he explains it. But it sure seems like he talks a lot about the Lions lately. And I think there's a lot of Lions fans that are going, can you just move on? I mean, you've got a new home now. On the other hand, there are plenty of Lions fans who constantly say, we want guys who want to be here. Screw Stafford. He doesn't want to be here. Screw this guy. He doesn't want to be here. I want guys who want to be here. That dude wanted to be here.
Absolutely. I think you can kind of tell by some of the amount that he's talking about. In my opinion, the reason he keeps doing it probably is because for the couple of years that he was here, that's when everything was getting built up and they were this team that everybody was talking about and they were the center. And I know players don't pay attention to that stuff maybe as much as they say they don't. I feel like it was hard to not get wrapped up in everything that was getting built from the Lions. And he was kind of the centerpiece of that for a while. Then, Jack Campbell comes along and I wonder if that is also a part of the reason for some of the saltiness maybe.
Yeah, well, I would hope he's happy for a former teammate. I would hope he's happy for Jack Campbell. Wouldn't you? If you're a good teammate, aren't you happy that one of your teammates has excelled as a young linebacker in this situation who's become one of the best linebackers in football?
Yeah, I think you should be. I think you should be happy for him. I guess it all depends on the person's ego. I don't know enough about Alex Anzalone or anything like that on a personal level to know if he would not be able to get over the fact that they kind of went with him as the captain of that linebacker corps, Jack Campbell, that is, over Anzalone. But yeah, it's interesting to think about because it feels like to me it is weird that you keep bringing up the team that you were with in the past. Feels like at this point you would just want to move forward with your career if it didn't mean that much to you.
Is it fair to think, and this might be, you mentioned ego, this might be the hard part about it. Is it fair to think that he was replaceable? They've made a choice. Their choice is, we're going to go with a kid that we drafted highly and think is going to be really good for a long period of time. And the other guy is more expendable. Who wants to feel like they're expendable? Nobody. You want to feel like you're so important to a team, to an organization, to a business, to whatever, people's routine, that you're not going to be replaced. He is, even though he was a good player, even though he was a captain for a number of years, he was replaceable. And I think that's fair to say.
Oh, it's definitely fair to say. I'm sure that he doesn't, maybe view himself as that. But I think that anybody that watches from the outside and they understand why they moved on from Alex Anzalone to what they have right now. You don't want to pay him as much as he was asking for.
I don't disagree with any of that. I think you're right. These are tough business decisions that teams have to make, and they have to make those decisions based on the future. Because Brad Holmes, and I know there's a lot of people who have starting to lose faith in him, Brad Holmes has to look years out. He can't look at the here and now. He's got to look years out. Now, I know a lot of us want him to look at the here and now because you want to get the edge rusher that you think is going to put us over the top to go to a Super Bowl, or find the right cornerback because DJ Reed didn't work out. Terrion Arnold hasn't worked out. So let's get somebody in that position, find them in free agency, find them in the draft. He's got to remember, if I want to get this guy and this guy and this guy, and I want to keep this thing rolling and eventually fill in those pieces, that he's got to think long-term as well. And I know that doesn't always sit well with Lions fans because it hasn't always sat well with me. Let's get to the final results of the poll question from yesterday. We ask a poll question to you every single day. Today, we asked you on the Mitch Lions Well poll question, do you think the Pistons are built for the playoffs? Yes, they've proven it all year. No, they need a win in a playoff series first. So we'll give you the results on Monday. But yesterday, this was the Mitch Lions Well poll question. Which is the best major in golf? Is it the Masters? Is it the U.S. Open? Is it the PGA Championship or the Open Championship? Andy, how did people vote?
It's overwhelmingly the Masters, and part of me wonders if it's 95% right now out of all the votes we got. Wow. I wonder if some of that is just because of the fact that it's going on right now.
Yeah, it's going on right now.
But it is also easily one of the most popular ones for sure. U.S. Open at 3%, Open Championship at 2%, PGA Championship 0%.
Yeah, I would say I thought it might be the Open Championship right after the Masters. I would say it's not just because it's going on right now, but I do believe it's one of the greatest sporting events in the U.S. I truly believe that. You talk about the Super Bowl, World Series, NBA Finals, Stanley Cup Finals, all that stuff. The Masters is in that conversation. When we come back, we'll have a conversation about baseball. The Tigers are taking on the Miami Marlins in a weekend series. Kyle Seeloff is the Marlins play-by-play voice. He joins us on the other side, brought to you by Avello Airlines and AvelloAir.com.
Hear that? That's the sound of saving a good deal more when you shop with M-Perks at Meijer. Some delicious Cosmic Crisp apples, money saved. Meijer Essential Paper Towels, that's money saved. Savings, savings, savings. Because every dollar spent is also points earned in M-Perks, which you can use to save on your next grocery trip or up to $1 off per gallon on your next tank of gas. At Meijer, we work hard to help you save a good deal more for a whole lot less. That's bringing more good to life. Exclusions apply. See mperks.com for details.
Huge here for the Michigan High School Athletic Association. You can stay up to date on the latest from Lansing 24/7 at MHSAA.com. At MHSAA on Twitter and MHSAA on Facebook. The latest news, press releases, and stories connected to every high school in the state of Michigan, available for you 24/7 from the Michigan High School Athletic Association. Log on to MHSAA.com, at MHSAA on Twitter, and MHSAA on Facebook. And if you're looking for archive, boys and girls, high school sports, MHSAA.TV. That's MHSAA.TV. 24/7, everything you need to know about high school sports in Michigan. Log on to MHSAA.com.
Where are you watching the Tigers this year? Superfly Hayes here for Detroit Sports Net. Sign up like the Ute Show did with the Detroit Sports Net Tigers Wings package. Subscription info at tigers.com and MLB.com.
Coming up later today at 3 on the Huge Show on the Michigan Sports Network, I'll deliver huge opinions on everything you're talking about.
35 after the hour. Welcome back on a Friday. Glad you're with us throughout the state of Michigan and streaming on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter as well. Follow us at XB Mornings. I'm Matt Shepard. The Marlins are in town. They are playing the Tigers for a weekend series, and it starts tonight. Detroit looking forward to this. Kiter Montero throws against Chris Paddock, the former Tiger. We just got done talking about the Lions. Kyle Seeloff is the outstanding radio play-by-play voice for the Miami Marlins. He's in town, and we wanted to welcome him to town and say hello and talk a little baseball. Kyle, thanks for the time. How are you today?
Good, guys. How are you? Thanks for having me on this morning.
Yeah, absolutely. Talk to me about your team early on and maybe what has surprised you a little bit, even though you can't read too much into just, 12, 13, 14 games or so.
Yeah, it's a good question, and I would start by saying there's not a whole lot that has surprised any of us. The Marlins have a better record than the Dodgers if you go back to the middle of last June. They've been one of the best teams in baseball. They are really scrappy. They are very, very difficult to play against. They pitch well. They do need to defend better. They have not defended all that well to start the season, but the one thing that they do really well is they put the ball in play, and when they get on base, they just try to run wild. And that's exactly what they've done. They've let a couple of games get away, but they're off to a really nice start with 8 wins and 5 losses to start the year. Obviously, Tigers fans know a little bit about what Cy Young Award winners look like. We do too, but Sandy looks like the guy that won it in 2022. Cannot wait for that matchup between he and Scooble on Sunday. But the Marlins are off to a really nice start.
Yeah, so is a guy like Xavier Edwards off to a really nice start. Liam Hicks, who leads your team in homers and RBIs. Nobody knows if this stuff is sustainable, but what are the early indications from this team that certain areas of the game the team plays collectively are sustainable?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you look at those two guys in particular and look at the back of their baseball cards, it would indicate that it's sustainable, and it has been for a very long time. A couple of years ago, Xavier Edwards was a 300-plus hitter. Last year struggled facing lefties, but still 300-plus facing righties. Off to a really nice start this season. Liam Hicks was a Rule 5 pick, and, well, as you guys may or may not know, the Marlins are infiltrated, you could say, by a influx of Canadian ball players, and Liam is one of them. Otto Lopez is another, and Owen Casey is in that mix as well. But Liam was a young man that had never played above Double-A ball before last year. He was a Marlins Rule 5 selection, stuck on the roster all year. They asked him to get bigger and stronger in the offseason. It's immediately paid dividends. He's off to a fabulous start. There's just a lot of what they do is not simple because the game is so difficult, but everything that the Marlins do, it's not predicated on big swings and big homers and instant offense. And that has been what's made the last year and change sustainable, because it's simply put the ball in play, and when we get on base, it's just a full-blown stress test for a couple of hours until they try to crack you and break you and win ball games.
Kyle Seeloff is the TV play-by-play voice for the Miami Marlins. He spent time in radio, and then he shifted over to TV. He's joining us here on X's and Bros. I'm Matt Shepard. Andy McDonald is alongside with us as well, with Miami in town to take on the Detroit Tigers. At what point, when I was calling games for the Tigers, we always felt like 1,500 at-bats in a player's career would give you a better indication. The old Sparky Anderson, give us 40 games to try and judge our team. At what point do you believe either one of those is true or not true? How long do you give a team before you start to really have some type of idea of who they are?
Man, that's a good question. I don't know if anybody's ever asked me that before, and I don't know if I could give you a good answer on that. I don't know but what in today's day and age with all the analytics and stuff, if they have a decent feel after basically a full season of 500 plate appearances or 600 plate appearances, they probably have a pretty good indicator of, hey, this is what you do well, this is what you don't do well. And if there's enough of the don't do well, can they try to fix things to help you? But I would say, if I were just to take a total shot in the dark, if you asked the front office, I bet they would probably say, we need to see it for a full season. We need 500 at bats, 600 plate appearances. And then you kind of go to work on like maybe what they do and don't do well. But I would say maybe now more than ever, you probably don't need as much time as you used to need. But I don't know. That's a really good question. That's one I haven't thought about.
Here's the debate I have with a lot of people before, and this is about markets. I love when people say, this is a small market team, this is a big market team, this is a mid-market team. And I never understood that because I don't know what they're basing that on. Are they basing it on TV? Because if they are, Miami is a big market team, right? Miami's a big market overall. There's a lot of people who live there. You live there. How do you view the Miami Marlins as quote unquote markets, or do you not buy into that stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I guess all that stuff is based on what people read and who owns the team, right? And the amount of, the amount of money that's being spent. I don't know, guys. I mean, I actually understand what you're saying. I think Miami's a really big market. I think there's more people that are, going to the state and the city than ever. Miami's a weird market. I will tell you that there is something very factual to. There's a lot of things to do down there, and there's some towns where baseball just occupies everybody. That's certainly not the case in Miami. But yeah, I think it would be fair to say if you looked at the entire body of work of the franchise, they've operated in a big. They are a small market team in a big market city.
Yeah, that's a fair way to put it. I've never been a big believer that the more money you spend, the better you should be, because I think it's how you spend your money more than anything else.
Yep.
But Miami doesn't spend a lot of money, but they spend more than they did a year ago. Is that because of the youth that this team has, and there's no need to spend that much, and you like your farm system? What do you think the reason is for that, and what you guys tell your fan base?
Oh yeah, I think it has taken a very long time to get the Miami Marlins fan base to buy back into what Peter Bendix, principal owner Bruce Sherman, and company want to do. But if you go back to last season, this is a team that was 16 games under 500. And I'll repeat what I said earlier because it's pretty amazing. If you go back to last June, I need to go back and look at the number now, but I think the Marlins have the sixth best record in Major League Baseball. That includes a better record than the Dodgers, which I think is significant because obviously they've won the World Series 2 times in a row.
Sure.
But this team is full of young kids with 4 or 5 years of control left. Now, do I think they're going to get to a point soon where they will look at extending some of these young guys? I do. I really, really do. But you don't, and I know that's kind of the craze in baseball these days, but you don't need to extend players that have 4 and 5 years of control left. You just don't need to do it. It's relatively wholeheartedly unnecessary. Once they start to hit arbitration, it's a really good problem to have if players cost you a lot in arbitration. It's a pretty good indicator that they're playing really well, and so is the team. But can teams always spend more money and upgrade?
Sure.
Yes, and I understand that. But if the Marlins went out and spent more this offseason and took the position of a young player who they're really trying to find out as a part of their future, it's a little bit counterproductive to what they're doing. And additionally, the proof is also in the pudding, right? Like these young guys have played really, really well now for, the last 40 games. Like if it's not broke within reason, you don't fix it. So, but we'll see, and we'll see what the future holds. But the influx of youthful talent that they have now is the best it's been in years. Maybe the most, really, if you go back to the late 2000s with the Miguel Cabreras, and the Hanley Ramirez's and those types of guys. Like they are a really fun team to watch. They're really scrappy. They're really, really tough to play, and they're very frustrating, like almost like opposing fans to watch.
That's okay. I mean, I love teams like that, especially if you're rooting for those teams. It's an interesting concept on the young players because, as you and I both know, Connor Griffin just signed that 9-year, $140 million deal. You're getting him at $15.5 million. You're getting an extra 3 years out of him when you know damn well if you expect what you're expecting, which is the number one overall prospect in all of baseball, that he's going to be worth a hell of a lot more than $15.5 million at that time. The Tigers are trying to figure out whether or not they do that again with a guy like Kevin McGonigal, because they've already done it with a Cole Keith. So I see the positives in that, but I understand also your line of thinking. Why extend them when you don't necessarily have to? That is a football mentality. It seems like it's a different mentality now in baseball that was started way back when Ronald Acuna signed an early $100 million deal and everybody thought it was crazy. What's your take on the NL East in general? Where do you think the strength is within the division? And besides the Dodgers, what's the strength overall in the National League this year, do you believe?
Oh, man, it's a good question, and I think it's too early to tell. If you did like a little synopsis on all 5 teams, if you start in New York, I think the Mets are really good. I think they look so totally different. I think they're going to be really good.
We said that last year, though, too, didn't we? We did say that last year.
We did. And Bill, I've always told people, though, the one thing that really scares me is David Stearns of money. I think he's a very, very bright president of baseball operations who did wonders in Milwaukee. I think he knows how to assemble a team. I think they're going to be just fine. And they finally got tired of not getting over the hump, and they got rid of a bunch of guys. So we'll see. Philadelphia is an interesting one to me because they're getting older, and I really think they're at the tail end of all of this winning. So they're off to a pretty good start. Like they're kind of doing their thing, but it's early to tell. Walt Weiss managing the Atlanta Braves, I just don't know if they can sustain all these starting pitchers' injuries. I know everybody woke up and they're in first place this morning, but they got the rotten injury bug in spring training. I mean they're missing so many guys, but that offense seems to be back. And the Nationals are still up and coming. They're going to be a pest to people. And then there's the Marlins. I'm really intrigued because in recent years, everybody just took the Mets, the Braves, and the Phillies, clumped them up at the top of the division and said, go duke it out. Obviously, and that never works that way. But I just think with the Phillies getting older and the Braves just so decimated, that rotation is ridiculously hurt right now. And then that's what they're wanting, maybe like 7-6 or something to start the season. Everybody's just kind of clumped up. We'll see. I think most good baseball folks, it's like, hey, you really got you'll start to see people separate themselves after 40, 50 games. It's the old adage, like everybody wins 50, everybody's going to lose 50. What do you do in the other 62 that really matters? But I think we'll have a better feel for the division in the next month or so.
What's your take on the Tigers from afar as you study up on this team that was expected to be the best in the division? Of course, I thought they were the last 2 years, and they ended up being wild card. What? And again, it's early, but what's your impression of Detroit early on?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're going to be fine. I really, really do, and they're still my pick to win the American League Central. I just think with Skubal anchoring this whole thing, I just have a hard time believing that they're not going to turn the whole operation around. I know they're 5 games under and coming off a really disappointing series there in Minnesota, but I think they're way too talented, and I'll be curious to see. Now, obviously, the injury yesterday in the collision in the outfield, that was awful. I've seen some of the McGonigal rumors. I wonder what they're going to do there. We'll see. When I look at this team, and I was doing all my stuff on the plane last night, and I look at 1 through 9 in the batting order. I sat there saying, would you take that player? Yep. And you do it to all 9 guys. You know what I'm saying? It's like, dang, like they're really, really talented. I think they're going to pitch really well with, Skubal and Valdez and Flaherty and Mize and Montero and these guys. Obviously a disappointing start to the year. Now, the only other thing I will say is how much does the crash at the end of last year kind of haunt them? I think that stuff can be a real thing. Like, I don't think that necessarily just disappears because the offseason came and went. This is largely the same cast of characters that they were 25 games over 500, finished 9-22, went into a 1-11 funk, and finished second in the division before taking care of the Guardians in the division series or the wild card round. Like, it's the same guy. So it's, I guess I'm kind of talking out of both sides of my mouth, but I still think this is a really good team.
Yeah, 30-52 in your last 82 is not saying a lot, though. That's the problem. They are 30 wins, 52 losses.
That's where I hear you. But again, I just look at them and I'm like, well, I would take that guy. I like Dingler. I like Torkelson, his ability to hit 25, 30 homers. And, Baez has had a bit of a renaissance. That didn't go well. And Torres has played well. And I don't know. I really like him, but I hear exactly what you're saying. This team has not exactly performed after the first 3.5, 4 months of last year.
Yeah, it's such a great perspective because you know this as well as anybody, Kyle. I mean, fans, when they see their players every day, they see those warts and they don't like them. Like I've never been a big Torres fan because I don't think he's very good defensively, and I think he brings very little pop, especially at this age. Baez, if you throw him anything other than a slider, you should be replaced from the mound. Green, I get. Dingler, I get. Most people are outside of that trying to figure out why. Who else, right? But that's how I look at other teams. I look at other teams. How many of those guys do I truly want? And can I be objective about it? You're going to like Kevin McGonigal. Trust me when I tell you that. He puts together really good at-bats. He puts bat on ball. He puts pressure on the defense. And he's a guy who is in there every single day looking at pitches. He's going to make pitchers work. So I think you're going to like him. But it is an interesting concept on how we view teams from afar compared to seeing teams every single day. So,
yeah, and I'm looking forward to watching them. I really am, and I cannot wait to see that matchup on Sunday between Skubal and Alcantara. Hey, and one other thing for your listeners and Tigers fans, if they can get out to the yard this weekend, I know they're not going to be rooting for the Marlins, but I do hope they'll root for Jacob Marcy, who's a local kid who grew up 15 minutes away from Comerica Park. He's our starting center fielder. I'm sure a lot of Tigers fans know a lot about the young man. It's going to be an amazing homecoming for him. He's going to have a couple of hundred family and friends there tonight, so it's going to be really cool to see him back.
Oh, I love that. What a cool story that is. Those are the fun things about baseball so many times, isn't it? Where you get a chance to talk about things like that. He's from Dearborn, I believe, right? Yeah.
Yep.
So, yeah, Dearborn, Michigan, right around the corner. Hey, thanks a lot for the time. We appreciate it as always. Have a great season, Kyle.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. Take care. We'll chat soon.
All right, you bet. That's Kyle Seeloff. He is the TV play-by-play voice for the Florida Marlins, the Miami Marlins. He used to be the Florida Marlins. Now the Miami Marlins in town. There was a part of me that wanted to say, where is the draw down in Miami? They played Chicago earlier this year. They had 6,500 fans. How is that possible? But that's not a fair question for him. That's not really his up to him. Let's hope we see Jacob Marcy, although he's off to a struggling start, just batting $160 for the Marlins, who are in first place in the NL East. Big series for the Tigers downtown this weekend, Detroit and Miami. Our thanks to Kyle for joining us, giving us a little baseball talk. Our thanks to you for giving us a little bit of your time on a Friday. We were brought to you this hour by Avello Airlines and AvelloAir.com. Have a great weekend, everybody. We're back with you Monday morning, 6 o'clock on X's and Bros.
Mitch Lyons here, founder of Mitch Lyons Wealth, where we create your best game plan to protect, grow, and win retirement. I'm here with Tiger legend Kirk Gibson, who we are proud to support and partner with on the newly opened Kirk Gibson Center for Parkinson's Wellness.
Thanks, Mitch. We appreciate your support, and we are excited to have recently opened the center in Farmington Hills. It provides exercise therapy and educational programs that are helping the Parkinson's community, just like Mitch Lyons Wealth helps improve the quality for their clients' retirements. This center helps improve the quality of life for people with Parkinson's.
And Gibby, the best part of all is that access to the center is available to the Parkinson's community free of charge, right?
That's right, absolutely free of charge for people with Parkinson's and their care partners.
You hit a couple of the most famous home runs in Major League history, Gibby, but I feel that your greatest hit will be the positive impact the Kirk Gibson Center is making in the fight against Parkinson's.
Mitch, since my diagnosis, I get up every day and focus on winning that day. This center encourages others to do the same.
Awesome, Gibby. To learn more, go to kirkgibsoncenter.org.
Huge here for Josh Garvey and his team.